Is your Social Security check being taxed? How does that work? And more importantly, is there any way that we can stop it? Hi, I'm Garrett Ray, financial planner here at the Wealth Guardians and the Ray Financial Group.
And I'm Brice Payne, and you've entered The Vault, the Wealth Guardians video series on all things pertaining to retirement planning. In this episode, we're going to discuss understanding the 0%, 50%, and 85% taxation rule on Social Security. We're going to talk about AGI, what you know as adjusted gross income, versus provisional income, what you might not be familiar with yet. And we're going to talk about different strategies you can use to keep your provisional income as low as possible. Don't forget to hit these little like and subscribe buttons that you see down below the screen there if you're so inclined to catch future episodes of The Vault with Garrett, Doug, and myself. All right, Garrett, let's go ahead and get to it here. Enlighten us on what this mysterious 0%, 50%, and 85% is.
Yeah, so like Brice said, those are the three percentages that we have to keep in mind when we're talking about possible taxation on our Social Security benefit. So you can be taxed up to 0% of your Social Security benefit.
Ideally.
50% or even 85% of that benefit could be taxed at whatever income tax bracket you fall into for that year. So that's the understanding, is how much percentage of my benefit is being taxed at my income tax rate.
Key to understand that. Yeah,
Yep.
We're really talking about two different kinds of percentages here. So key to understand that.
So Brice, you had talked a little bit about AGI, right? Adjusted gross income. Most people are fairly familiar with that.
If you've paid taxes before, you probably know AGI and have probably figured out what your AGI is year after year.
But now we've got this other term that you brought up, which is provisional income. That's a term that we're not necessarily thinking about during our working years. Explain to us, how does provisional income work and what's that calculation look like?
Right. So again, we're all familiar with adjusted gross income, but if you've never filed for Social Security, provisional income means nothing to you. However, once you are filing for Social Security, provisional income is enormously important. So how do we get from AGI to provisional? You take your adjusted gross income and you add back into it 50% of whatever your Social Security income is. So if you're making $4,000 a month in Social Security, we take half of that, $2,000 a month or $24,000 a year, and we add that to our adjusted gross income.
Okay.
On top of that, we're also going to go back and add in, if we have any tax-exempt bond interest that we might have been...
Like a municipal bond.
Like a municipal bond.
Okay.
If you've got income coming into you from that, you're used to that not being taxed because it's tax-exempt bonds. It is not tax-exempt when we are talking about provisional income. So once we take our AGR, adjusted gross income, and we add back in 50% of our Social Security income, and if we have any tax-exempt bond interest, we add that back in, boom, that is our provisional income. That provisional income amount is what's going to determine whether or not we fall in the 0% tier of Social Security, which is where we'd all love to be, the 50% Social Security tier, which is probably where many of us are, or the
85%.
The dreaded 85% tax tier. So this, I don't want to make this too complicated, but let's go over the numbers here. Let's say we're going to use a round number here so it's easy to understand. Forgive me, I got my little cheat sheet here with me. Let's say that our monthly Social Security income is $4,000 a month, and we're trying to figure out how much of that is taxed. Well, obviously, if our provisional income is so low that we're in the 0% tax bracket, then 0% of that is going to be taxed. 0% of $4,000 is zero, so you don't owe Uncle Sam anything from your Social Security. But let's say that you fall in the 50% tier, and we're going to go over the numbers here of where you fall in the tiers in just a moment. So if you fall in the 50% tier, $2,000, which is half of $4,000, which is what we said your Social Security check is, and let's say that you fall in the 22% tax bracket. Well, 22% times 2,000 means that you're paying Uncle Sam back $440 a month of that $4,000 Social Security check that you're getting. Okay. But what if your provisional income is so high that you fall in that 85% tier?
Yeah,
well,
let's say it's a situation where I'm taking my Social Security benefit, but I've got like a part-time job in retirement.
Part-time job, maybe rental income,
Yep.
maybe a pension.
Yep, a pension too.
Whatever else, and you couldn't keep your provisional income down low. We're going to talk about that in a minute. And you can't help it, and you're dragged up into the 85% tier of Social Security. So 85% of $4,000 is $3,400, and we're taxing that at 22%, assuming that that's the tax bracket that you fall in. That's $748.
Wow, that's a big difference.
That's $300 more and some change more than what you were paying if you were in the $500. I'm
Yep.
sorry, the 50%
Yep.
tax tier. Well, that's almost a month's worth of groceries there right now
Yeah.
in 2023, right?
Starting to add up there now.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about the tiers then. What are those magical numbers that keep me at 0, 50, or 85%? So if you want to stay at the 0% tier for Social Security taxation, your total provisional income has to be below $25,000 if you're an individual, or below $32,000 if you're filing jointly.
Okay. Yep.
All
Single
right.
and jointly.
If you're going to fall in the 50% tier, that means that your income as an individual is going to be between $25,000 and $34,000. If that's your
Okay.
total income, you're at the 50% tier. If you are over $34,000 as an individual, or over $44,000 as a joint family, then that's where you're falling in the 85% tier.
Okay. Wow.
All right, so a lot of numbers to go over there, but ideally we want to keep that provisional income as low as possible. So somebody might ask us now, Garrett, well, look, I get my Social Security check. It's not enough for me to live on, so
Right.
I have to be taking distributions from my IRAs. That is added towards my AGI, and therefore is added toward
Provisional.
my
Yep.
provisional income. How on earth do I keep what strategies can I use to keep my provisional income as low as possible?
Yeah,
We do have a
absolutely.
few.
There are a few out there, and obviously this is something that you would have to talk about with your financial professional with. But three strategies that come to mind, at least to us, immediately is considering a traditional IRA to Roth conversion. So when we convert IRA monies into Roth monies, assuming that Roth account has been open and matured for at least 5 years, then the growth of that account can come out tax-free when we eventually do turn around and take a distribution from it. And then there's two other strategies. There's a LIRP, or a life insurance retirement plan. This typically takes several years in advance planning to do. But effectively what you're doing is you're building up a life insurance policy that typically has a fairly substantial death benefit associated with it. Now, presumably, if you did nothing with that life insurance policy, then obviously that death benefit would go on to your beneficiaries. That being said, within the structure of this plan, you are allowed to take loans essentially against your own death benefit while living. And since that's a loan from your own insurance policy, then that is tax-free income to you.
That does not add toward your provisional income.
Exactly.
Right. So if you took a distribution from an IRA, that's adding to your provisional income. If you're taking a loan out to yourself from your LIRP,
Yep.
life insurance retirement plan, that does not count toward your provisional income. However, as Garrett said, this takes years of planning
Yep.
ahead of time.
It does.
Let's say that you were contributing to your 401k and your IRA for years, and the extra money that you had to put aside, you were just putting into non-qualified accounts. You could have possibly been contributing to a life insurance retirement plan and been taking that out, loans to yourself out, tax-free, and not kicking you up into those higher tiers.
Absolutely.
So that's the way a LIRP goes. And I want to go back to you talking about the IRA to Roth conversion, Garrett.
Okay.
We already established that IRA distributions, or income from your IRA, counts toward your provisional income.
Sure.
Are you saying that if you take a distribution from your Roth, that does not count toward your AGI or provisional income?
No, because you've already paid the taxes off when you made the contribution into a Roth.
All right.
Or if you converted it, you paid the tax at the time of conversion.
At the time of conversion.
Yep.
But when you did it back then, that was irrelevant to what tax tier you fell in Social Security, because
Right.
you weren't filing for Social Security at the time.
Didn't touch Social Security at all at that point.
Sounds like we're making a good case here for somebody talking to a financial planner
Yeah.
years in advance of retirement and years in advance of filing for Social Security, so they
Yeah.
can take these steps and get, because you can't make an IRA to Roth conversion in one lump sum
Yeah.
right before you retire or right upon retirement, because that's going to kick you up into several higher tax brackets right there. So you've
Right.
got to do this in baby steps over
Yeah.
years.
Absolutely. And there's the third strategy we want to touch on
Yep.
too, which is talking about a reverse mortgage. So let's say you're not very comfortable with some sort of life insurance policy or plan, but you're more comfortable with your own equity in your own home. Well, have you considered a reverse mortgage? You take a reverse mortgage, you're basically taking a loan of the equity that you've built up into your home, and income that you get from that on a monthly basis also doesn't count towards your provisional income.
That's correct. So three techniques there: IRA to Roth conversions, LIRPs, life insurance retirement plans, and reverse mortgages are 3 ways to keep you from paying Uncle Sam more than you have to when you are filing for Social Security.
Sounds like a winner to me.
Does indeed. Talk to your financial planner about how these might be working in your favor. I think that's all we got to talk about here, Garrett. That's going to wrap it up for this episode of The Vault. Feel free again to hit these like and subscribe buttons below us right there if you're so inclined to catch future episodes of The Vault with Garrett, Doug, and myself. I'm Brice Payne.
And I'm Garrett Ray.
And this has been The Vault.